by and large, there is bipartisan support for Israel. And it is of vital importance that we maintain that. The coalition, the Liberal and National parties, believe that Israel stands in the front line, in the front trench, in the battle against terror. A battle that we cannot afford to lose. And we are shoulder to shoulder with Israel in that battle. It is absolutely vital that we in Australia, as one of Israel's few, sadly, absolutely unequivocal allies, gives the State of Israel that unequivocal support. And it's particularly important right now, today, as you reflect on the fast of Tisha B'Av, on the security of Israel. The territory of the State of Israel is just a pocket handkerchief of land. So little space between the border with the West Bank and the sea. So little, no real strategic depth in which to defend itself. Israel faces existential threats that we in Australia cannot even begin to comprehend. You can stand on land in the West Bank, which, because of its elevation, is almost a stone's throw from Tel Aviv and the airport, Ben Gurion Airport. The vulnerability of Israel is extraordinary, and that is why we need to support Israel and recognise that geographical reality of Israel's vulnerability. It faces a truly existential threat, of course, not just from its immediate neighbours, but from Iran. Now, there is a tendency around the world to believe that the road for peace for Israel is just to make one concession after another. I remember standing in the House of Representatives as the representative of the people of Wentworth and speaking about the decision that was made by then Prime Minister Sharon to withdraw unilaterally from Gaza. And I said at the time, with very mixed emotions, that I hoped that this would not simply be the prelude to Israel being assaulted with missile attacks from Gaza. I hoped that this unilateral withdrawal, this extraordinary act of goodwill, would be met with equal goodwill. Well, as we know, the reality is that withdrawal, and indeed a number of other withdrawals that Israel has made, have not been met with equal goodwill. So Israel must face the reality that in its negotiations for a settlement with its neighbours, that settlement must be based on secure, in accordance with the UN resolution, secure, defendable borders. It must be in a position to defend itself, because there is a fundamental duty, as I said at Central not so long ago, the fundamental duty of every state, the State of Israel, the State of Australia, the State of the United States, is to defend the security of its citizens. And we must defend Israel and support Israel in that measure. Now, there will be occasions when we may not agree with the tactics that the IDF employ. And we see a classic case of this with respect of the flotilla that was intercepted by the IDF on its way to Gaza and diverted. We must remember there is a big distinction between the strategic issues. Does Israel have a right to defend its borders? Does Israel have a right, a duty, I would say, to ensure that armaments are not smuggled into Gaza? And the tactical, well, how do you actually go about that? Now, again, as I said at Central, and many of you were there, it is fine. We can all try to be Monday morning quarterbacks, backseat drivers, but it is not realistic for us, sitting here in Sydney in the safety of Australia, to try to second guess and critique how the IDF handles a particular mission. That will be incredibly controversial, as it has been in that particular case, no doubt, investigated, inquired into, lessons learned and so forth. Those are tactical issues. Where Israel needs our support is in the fundamental strategic question, and that is in ensuring that Israel's security is protected. Now, as I said, the State of Israel has had strong bipartisan support across the board, and I'm proud of that. To my regret, and I know to the regret of many of you, since the Rudd government was elected, there have been some changes. Mr. Rudd would have said subtle changes, but changes nonetheless in the level of support that has been given to Israel, particularly in the United Nations. There was a vote in the UN in March where Australia abstained from a resolution demanding that Israel and Hamas investigate possible war crimes during the conflict in Gaza. Now, that was very strongly criticised by the Zionist Federation here in Australia. Now, look, I don't want to make a partisan issue out of this. I just think that this is an area where subtlety is often lost. What Israel needs, with so few strong allies in the world, is unequivocal support. And you have that from the coalition, you will always have it from the coalition, and in particular, you will always have it from me.
So the Australian Labor Party has been and remains a friend and strong ally of Israel. You may forget, of course, the role of Dr. the establishment of Israel, a very historic vote that would not have come about without Evatt's involvement and intervention. You may have already forgotten, those who yell out, that last year the Australian government sponsored the resolution congratulating Israel on its 60th anniversary, which was supported by the Liberal Party. It was bipartisan, and it was supported, and it was sponsored by the Labor Party. You may also forget that Julia Gillard, last year as Education Minister, fought hard against a lot of opposition to include Holocaust studies in the curriculum that all school children will learn from now on. A unique opportunity to make sure that the memory of the Holocaust remains in the coming generations. And Malcolm did have something to say about the building education revolution. What he forgot to tell you, of course, is the benefits that have been received by our community. Now let me just quickly run through those. Mariah, $2.2 million, 6 new classrooms to replace demountables, and an early learning centre. The Yeshiva gets a multi-level facility and a multi-purpose hall. The Emmanuel School, a science and primary block. But that's not all of it. They are 3 schools that we know about. The public schools in our area, all the schools are benefiting from an initiative taken by the government which avoided this country going into recession during the global financial crisis, and at the same time created facilities which were long overdue in our schools and for future generations. The major point of difference, I think, between Malcolm and myself is this. If you elect a Liberal government, you are getting a government that will have Tony Abbott and all his bastard views as Prime Minister. I believe in a society that treats those seeking refuge with dignity and with respect. I oppose the demonisation of refugees and the scaremongering that we've seen both from Tony Abbott and his spokesman Scott Morrison. As a society, we deserve better. As a society, we do not need to go down that path. As a society, we have an obligation to treat all those who come to our shores with dignity and to be processed in accordance with the law. Fellow deputies, on the 21st of August, the voters of Wentworth will go to the polls. I have a genuine fear that this country, led by Tony Abbott, will take a path down the Conservative road which will not be in the interests of all of us. For those of you who live in Wentworth, I have one message only. I ask you to vote for me and ensure that Julia Gillard can return to continue the good work which she has started. Thank you very much.